If national championships in college football were determined by national recruiting rankings, let's shut it down for the next several years because Alabama's won the national championship. If you run down the top players in the country at each position and you look at the top overall players, this is not just the number one class in the country. It's the number one class by a large margin. It's not even close. It is ridiculous, the embarrassment of riches for the Alabama Crimson Tide, but they will play the games and they will have to perform on the field and develop his talent. We bring in Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama to talk about this class, Stephen M., and it's just amazing because I'm looking at the top 300 according to ESPN, and it's almost like Nick Saban said, we don't need to look at the bottom 150. It's just crazy to see the amount of highly rated talent. You've got to have 15 guys rated in the top 10 at their positions. So you would be here for hours running down each and every player that is highly ranked and highly sought after. Let's go after some of those guys that you really like and have heard a lot about, seen some tape on that you really like.
Well, to start on the offensive side of the ball, Mark, which is kind of interesting, Saban basically known for doing much of his stuff on the defensive side. But for the first time, I feel like in this recruiting class, he's really going after offensive players. And the first one being Blake Barnett, a five-star quarterback from San Diego High School in Corona, California. This is a guy that's 6'5", 200 pounds, great arm strength, accuracy, precision. He can put the ball where you want it to be placed at. Also great mobility, and just his passing paralysis is what intrigues offensive coordinator Lane Kiffin. So Blake Barnett, definitely a name there. Alabama went out and got the number one running back in the country, and Damien Harris out of Kentucky. Alabama had a former Kentucky running back from 1996 through 99 by the name of Sean Alexander. Crimson Tide fans know how special he was to the fold. So Damien Harris, a rare combination of power, speed, agility. Damien Harris. Calvin Ridley, the number one draft class. He's also very special. Alabama also targeted the offensive line, bringing in Dallas Warmack, getting a strong commit from him, Brandon Kennedy, and also Richie Pettibon, just three of the four offensive linemen Alabama was able to target with this class, Nestor Cotton being the fourth guy. So offensively, Saban really trying to go after these big guys for the offensive line, and Alabama's attempt to go back to that dominant run-blocking offensive line, that downhill running style that Alabama fans were so used to seeing from 2009, and getting guys to commit like Dallas Warmack and Brandon Kennedy, Richie Pettibon, and Nestor Cotton are very huge for Alabama. All four of those guys, four-star offensive linemen. But just the offense as a whole, Saban, not used to seeing him take this route, but he's taking this route, getting the number one quarterback in Blake Barnett, the number one running back in Damien Harris, the number one receiver in Calvin Ridley, and 3 to 4 top 5 offensive linemen.
It is crazy when you look at the rankings, Stephen M., and those are the guys that are at the very top of their positions. You mentioned the guard position, so we're just talking offensive guard. The 3 of the top 10 in the nation going to Alabama. If you look at the overall rankings, and again, I've looked at Rivals, I've looked at the composite rankings, I've looked at Scout, I'm just taking the ESPN 300. You know, the number 12 overall player, 14, 23, 27, 36, 48, 54, 65, 86, 88, and number 100, and then about 5 guys right after that between 100 and 133. It is just crazy, the guys there. So if you look at the guys that aren't necessarily leaning toward the Crimson Tide right now, Stephen M., but those guys that have Alabama in the top 3 or 4 that could sign, who are those guys that you would love to see ink Alabama on National Signing Day?
One player, or 2 players in particular I will love, Mark, is 4-star wide receiver Dylan Charlotte. I got a chance to watched Diamond Charlotte in the All-American game. Just quick burst off the line of scrimmage, great hands, unbelievable ability to create separation in traffic. Runner can stop on a dime, change direction, burn secondaries deep down the field. Very, very tough guy. Middle, catch a pass, take a hit, and keep on running. So I would love to see Diamond Charlotte really come to the Crimson Tide and sign on. Another guy is five-star defensive end C.C. Jefferson out of Florida. Saban very high on Jefferson. C.C. Jefferson, a rangy guy, big arms, big hands, can put his hand in the ground, big-time pass rusher, can create leverage, can attack the run game, get to opposing quarterbacks. Just a physical freak of nature, C.C. Jefferson is. So I would love to see Jefferson and Dylan Charlotte sign with the Crimson Tide. Another name out there for Alabama is Drew Richmond, a four-star offensive lineman. Now, he's given Ole Miss a verbal commitment, but the verbal commitment he's given Ole Miss is not solid. So there's a chance that Drew Richmond could be swayed to Alabama. Drew Richmond, a guy that can play offensive tackle in any offensive line when given an opportunity. Alabama had four-star commitment Isaiah Prince decommit from the Crimson Tide. Prince was a huge loss for Alabama because of his size, 6'6", 270, could be a very formidable, potent left tackle. So if Alabama was able to sway Drew Richmond from Mississippi to Alabama, the Crimson Tide would get its left tackle in Drew Richmond. But the two I would love to see sign, Dylan Charlotte, four-star wide receiver, and five-star defensive end C.C. Jefferson from Florida.
We all know that you can stay in the Southeast, especially Florida, and you can ring in a top 5 recruiting class, if not a number 1 recruiting class. Again, just staying in the Southeast and getting your fair share from Florida. Nick Saban is going out to other parts of the country, and I know that he's done this in other years, but it just is highlighted right here to again magnify and emphasize the embarrassment of riches when you can stay in the Southeast, you can stay put, you're not Nebraska, you can stay put, stay within 300 to 400 miles, get the job done, bring in the best class in the country, and he goes to New Jersey to bring in one of the best cornerbacks in the country. He goes to California. You highlighted Blake Barnett, the best pocket passer in high school football. He goes to Texas. He goes to Missouri. He goes to Washington, D.C. to bring in Richie Pettibone, who you talked about there. He goes to places like that, and it's amazing that he's able to do that in addition to getting, of course, the Alabama kids and the kids within that 200 or 300 mile scope. Hey, Stephen M., let's look at the 2014 team. Very accomplished team, came within a whisker of getting to the national championship again. What are some of those needs that you project that will need some filling where some guys can immediately, based on their talent, they're going to challenge for positions, many of these guys regardless, but based on need that Alabama really needs to fill some gaps?
Well, the first need, Mark, is the offensive line. Alabama losing 3 seniors, Austin Shepard, Ari Kwanjo, and Leon Brown, all 3 graduated after the 2014 season. Austin Shepard and Ari Kwanjo both pursuing NFL careers. So with losing 3 offensive linemen, the Crimson Tide does return Ryan Kelly, who will be the most experienced lineman coming back as a senior. The Crimson Tide does bring back Cam Robinson, but he will only be a sophomore after a stellar freshman campaign. So a lot of these 4- and 5-star offensive linemen coming into this year's class, guys like I mentioned, Richie Pettibone, Dallas Warmack, Lester Cotton, these guys can really compete for time on the offensive line. Now, of course, Alabama returns guys like Grant Hill, who's very versatile, and Alphonse Taylor, Dominic Jackson from the 2014 recruiting class. Alabama brings back Rush Pierschbacher and J.C. Hausner. Also Josh Casher, those 3, Pierschbacher, Hausner, and Casher from the 2014 class. But like I said, guys like Warmack, Kennedy, and Pettibone coming into the 2015 class have a strong chance of pushing for playing time, pushing for starting time. And even if they don't get starting time, just pushing to go with that second team offensive line is huge because it gives you the reps, it gives you the opportunity to learn, what the first string guys are doing. So if one of those guys happen to get injured or lose their spot, you can come in and fill right in and pick up the slack or pick up the place where it needs to be helped at. So offensive line definitely a need. Secondary is a need. Alabama losing Landon Collins, Nick Perry, and Jarek Williams. Nick Perry and Landon Collins both pursuing NFL careers. Jarek Williams graduated from Alabama secondary. Alabama has recruited two more five-star cornerbacks in Minkah Fitzpatrick and Kendall Sheffield. In the safety position, Alabama's recruited Deontay Thompson and Ronnie Harrison. Those four guys can really push for playing time in that secondary. Saban likes his cornerbacks, his safeties, not only to be able to play bump and run and press coverage, but also play zone, deliver hard hits against receivers, be able to break on the football, come down in the box to play run support. And guys like Fitzpatrick, Kendall Sheffield, Deontay Thompson, and Ronnie Harrison can all do that. Alabama did recruit two corners in the 2014 class, and Tony Brown and Marlon Humphrey. Those two will both be back. Also, Lawrence Hootie Jones, a four-star safety, Alabama recruited in its 2014 class. He will return as a sophomore. So a lot of talent returning, but with the guys Alabama's bringing in the 2015 class, a lot of these guys very talented, well coached, have a lot of knowledge to take to the game. So it'll be very interesting during spring practice, of course, the Alabama spring game, summer workouts going into fall camp, which one of these 2015 freshmen is really going to push the hardest for playing time.
Got Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama on the line. Stephen M., we always appreciate the time and love the breakdown of the personnel both existing and what's coming up on campus. It seems to be just amazing, again, the amount of talent that's coming to Tuscaloosa again this year.
I mean, it's just so much talent coming in to the University of Alabama. It's just unreal. I don't see how Saban gets these guys. I don't see how Lane Kiffin, in one season going into his second season, is able to get some of these guys. Both guys do an amazing job. Alabama was able to get some huge coaching hires this offseason, including bringing in Mel Tucker to be its new defensive backs coach, Tosh Kapoe, 32-year-old from the West Coast, California area. Alabama has hired him in to be the outside linebackers coach. So just a lot of big-time coaching moves for Alabama as well as recruiting. But as we all know, the biggest recruitment, the biggest commitment was Lane Kiffin's commitment to Nick Saban, as he has clearly stated that he will return for the 2015 season, a tune that all Alabama fans can be happy about, getting Lane Kiffin back and also bringing in some of the new young coaches that Saban has landed.
Yes, few guys shun the NFL to stay in college as an offensive coordinator who have been a head coach both at the big-time collegiate level and in the NFL. That's quite a statement from Lane Kiffin and says a whole bunch about the Alabama program, of course, and Nick Saban as well. Stephen M. Smith, Touchdown Alabama. Stephen M., you have yourself a great week. Immerse yourself in this. I know you already have, and let's get the job done for Wednesday, and we appreciate the time, sir.
Hey, no problem.